jump in and I introduce our next speaker, I think on a personal level, I just want to say this is someone who I've known and have admired for a very long time. And I'm very excited we were able to get him here today because schedules being as challenging as they are, it was no simple task. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Tom Henske. Tom is a two-time All-American and three-time NCAA Division I soccer champion at the University of Virginia. And during that time, he also graduated as UVA's Distinguished Student Award winner. That was in his senior year. Tom Henske has been a leader in the financial industry for nearly 3 decades. Gosh, where'd the time go? During that time, he built and sold a financial services practice, not once, but 2 different times. With 7 financial professional designations after his name, demonstrate rank Tom as one of the most educated financial advisors in the US. During all of this, not sure how, but somehow Tom managed to spend 11 years coaching his local soccer varsity team, which was nationally ranked. And he was even named one of the country's NCAA Coaches of the Year. Through all of this, his new book, It Makes Total Sense. Tom wrote his new book, It Makes Total Sense. And Tom has again found victory in his mission to provide a better way for parents to develop a generation of money smart kids, and invites you to join him on that journey. Tom is with us today to provide some insights on what it takes to be a high performer in a very competitive sales environment. Over to you, Tom.
Okay. Hey, everybody. It's really interesting when you are public speaking. I still get a little nervous, even though I give probably about 100 speeches a year. But hey, I looked at it. If Joe can get up there and say that he's a Mets fan, then I can get up here and speak to a great organization today. You know, I know Barb's not with us either. I saw the video. I want to know, how many takes did it take her with the Jenga before she actually got it right? So she's not here today. So someone on my behalf ask her, and then hopefully you text me and you let me know. So, you know, we're here today because we're high achievers, right? And what I want to talk about is what I call cross the line. It's the mindset that high achievers have to attain their goals. So as Tim just told you, Tim, gosh, we go way, way back. If you guys need to know, high school basketball. Can you imagine the 2 of us playing basketball? We don't look like basketball players anymore. But if you think about it, I've played on a lot of successful sports teams and business teams. And there's this common denominator of success for those organizations to become successful. Think about it. You have a new year. You were talking about, God, yeah, where's the champagne for the new year, right? So in new year, we have new goals. We have new unknowns, new fears. Everything's new, 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 new. So the question is, what is it going to take for you to achieve all those goals? And you guys did a great job of outlining in your specific areas and the tips, but I want to give you a little slant on things that came to me from a gentleman named Sam Parker. He introduced this idea to me, and ironically, when I was in college playing at the University of Virginia, our coach, Bruce Arena, echoed this same message, a different way, but the same message every preseason. Next slide. Go one more, please. Okay, great. So in everything in life, there's this line, and there are 2 sides of the line. On one side of the line, you're going to be able to have better relationships, better results, more opportunities. And on the other side, it's there, it's just less of a chance. So like when I'm listening to the videos, Lee, your comment of, I think you said crush the targets, right? Those are results. Fran, you said better relationships. And then I think it was Wayne and Tyler who both used the words opportunities in their talk. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Can you, next slide, please? Okay, so there is that one line, and there's 2 sides and a choice. You can either cross the line or not. You can either go for that better chance of the better relationships, results, and opportunities, or just settle for the other side where there's less of a chance. Next slide. Okay, so when you sit back and you think about it, what are the lines that you need to cross? Normally what I would do is I'm sitting in a live audience, I would ask, or I don't necessarily have access to the chat right now. So I just want you in your mind to think about, like, what are the lines that not only do you need to cross personally, but does your group need to cross? And does the company need to cross in order for you to be successful? Next slide. But I'm telling you from experience, here's what's going to happen. All of a sudden, there are going to be these things that get in the way. And they usually come in 3 categories. The first is just the regular challenges. I heard a couple of them. I think, I don't remember who it was, Steve, who said hair on fire. So yeah, your hair on fire events that are going to happen. The next are going to be other people. Sometimes people don't want to cross the line, and they may not want you to cross the line either, for whatever reason that is. And the last is going to be your own self-doubt, right? Just like everyone else, I sometimes get up there and say, am I a fraud? Am I an imposter? And gosh, even things like financial advising, where Tim, you mentioned all those designations, there'll be times where a client will ask me something and I'll really say to myself, I don't know that I know the idea. And I feel like if I don't have the answer here, we're going to have a problem. But what I want you to think about is whether those challenges are just the normal challenges, they're other people, or they're your own self-doubt. What happens is, as these start to stack up, that line looks like a wall, okay? And when you see that wall, sometimes you just say to yourself, you know what? I just don't have the strength to try and go through this. And what you do is you just throw your hands up, okay? And we decide, okay, I guess I'm just not going to get across the line for those better results, better relationships, more opportunities. Next slide. And so what obstacles are you going to hit? And this is super important, because whenever I coached that high school team that Tim mentioned, I would always start our season. Now realize I'm dealing with high school kids, right? So there's nothing harder to work with than a 15 through 17-year-old boy. I don't remember being like that myself, but clearly my father has said that I was that same person that I've been coaching. But what we would do is we would start off the beginning of the season and go through what might go wrong. And now take that to my adult life. And when I started to be a financial advisor, what I would do before I had a big meeting or a prospective meeting for a prospective client is I would sit there and role play in a conference room with one of my colleagues. And I would say, bring your best shot at me. I'm going to pitch you like I would the client. And I want you to throw every objection you can think of. Don't be soft on me. And so what happened was, some of those objections I nailed and I answered well. Some of them, for lack of a better phrase, I sucked and I needed to go back and do it again. But at the end of the day, it really got me ready and confident for those meetings, because then I knew, okay, bring it on, whatever you're going to bring on, I've got. Well, it was interesting because at the University of Virginia soccer, we did the same thing, and we called it situational analysis or situational play. Here's how that works in soccer. And forgive me if you're not a soccer person, but I think you'll still get the example. So coach would divide us in 2 teams, and he would say, okay, starters, you're on this team. Everyone else, you're on this team. Starters, we're going to pretend like you are down a goal with 10 minutes left. Okay, that's the situation. Down a goal, 10 minutes left, go. And so what we would do is you're throwing everything forward because you have nothing to lose, because you're already losing 1-0. You're just desperately trying to get that goal back. Then he would stop it and he would say, okay, now we're going to switch it. There's 10 minutes left in the game and you're up a goal. So what are we doing now? We are defending. We're getting everyone behind the ball. We're not making stupid decisions. If we're not sure what we're going to do, we're just going to knock the heck out of the ball and send it over the top. He then stopped and he would say, okay, now next 20 minutes, starters, pretend like you're down a player because someone got ejected and they got a red card. So now you're playing minus a player. And then you would go through that. And you could probably start to understand what I'm talking about here. Is the reason that you do that is because those obstacles are going to come up. guaranteed 100% one of these things is going to happen. And what you want as a coach and what you want as a player is when they come up that you don't, again, for lack of a better phrase, freak out. Is that a technical enough term, freak out? Everyone understands that? Right, okay. So you don't freak out. And it's like, okay, there's 10 minutes left. We're down a goal. We've been here before. We know exactly what to do. No panic, no emotion. Let's go, right? Same thing if you're up a goal. And what happens is you don't want to start having the initial conversation of what you will do to get past that obstacle at the time that obstacle is there. Why? Because that's when you're most emotional and you're not thinking straight. Okay, you want to be on autopilot so that when it hits, you're ready to rock. It's so important that you find a way to get past these obstacles because, next slide, these obstacles of today are lessons of tomorrow. Think about that. The things that happen today, those obstacles, not only are they lessons for the immediate right then and there, but for the future. Let me give you two examples. So my daughter, who's now 16, when she was 10 years old, we were on a work retreat. And it was for families, and the families all went, and they had these family events, and we were in California, and one of the events was to ride bicycles that they had for us over the Golden Gate Bridge to the other side. You get to the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's a restaurant there, and everyone gets to go to the restaurant. You're following me? You got the visual? Okay. So my daughter decides she does not want to be on a tandem bike at 10 years old. She wants to do it on her own. And there's no way in hell that she's going to the other side without being on a bike by herself. So just like I do with her mom, I acquiesced and said, okay, and we got on the bike. Well, I wonder, anyone in this room ever ridden a bike over the Golden Gate Bridge? Well, let me help you understand what's going on here. You're going over, it's not like a wide area for the pedestrians, so you have people coming the other way. Of course, I didn't realize this until we got maybe about half of the way, that my daughter couldn't quite reach the brakes because the brakes were hand brakes. It was not a problem when we were going up because there wasn't a lot of braking, but it's a huge problem going down. So of course, we're going down. What happens? A jogger comes, she changes the direction of the bicycle, goes flying off, scrapes her knee, bloody all over the place. Not to mention, I can't stand the sight of blood. That's a story for another day, maybe a couple of glasses of wine. But all of a sudden now I'm dealing with this. So now, after we got done with this, realized the rest of the group is already at the restaurant and they're probably already into the appetizer. The security was with us because they were bringing up the rear, and they radioed ahead what was going on. We get to the restaurant, my daughter is still crying, and I'm like, oh God, what are we gonna do? So I just put on my best coaching impersonation and I said, Samantha, you've got two choices here. You're either going to walk in that room and cry, okay, and that's going to be your memory of it, okay, or you're going to put a smile on your face as if you're not even fazed. I go, it's your choice. You decide what to do. I know what I would do. So a little of the guilt going on there. She goes in, and with a smile on her face, everyone, because we had the whole restaurant, stood up and is clapping and cheering for her, right? So the lesson that she learned is that when she gets past those obstacles, okay, she learned a lesson. And now when she's 16 and getting her head handed to her by whatever boy she got mad at, or a teacher she's not happy with, or if anyone has any teenagers, you know what I'm talking about. That's what was going on in her head. I've been here before. I've had obstacles. I can get past it. You don't want to hear Tom Henske family story? How about Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan and his famous The Flu game. The flu game in 1997 in the finals against the Jazz. You remember he had that towel over his head. He was on the bench. It was one of the most famous sports stories ever, probably in the history of sports, not just basketball, but sports. He scored 38 points. They went up winning. They went on, they won the championship. So if you're going to be successful, you're going to have obstacles because you're setting your goals high every year. I know when I was in a sales organization, I felt like every year it's getting harder to do, bigger, the bigger quota or whatever it is that you call right? And all high performers think of hurdles as serving this greater purpose or a necessary evil to make them stronger. Okay. By the way, super, super important, which is why I love the theme today, is high achievers surround themselves with supportive people. And high achievers really manage their self-talk to make sure they're not talking themselves out of hitting the levels that they want to hit. Okay. So the next slide, please. Okay, so here are the obstacles that you're used to hitting. We mentioned challenges before, right? We mentioned the people. You know, sometimes they're just people that are less than supportive, enthusiastic, let's call it. Is that a nice way to be, just be nice about it? Right, okay. And they're just people that are not really inspiring us, okay? You need to be able to get past those people and realize I am not going to flourish sitting in an environment like that, okay? And remove yourself or get that person to change. That's easier said than done. But the big thing is also the work. I guarantee that there is not anything worth it in life that doesn't take work. And I don't mean here in your job, okay? Yes, here in your job, of course, but at home with, you know, for me, with my wife, with my kids, with my parents, right? With my friends, anything that's worth it is going to take work. And if you think that you're going to attain all these great things in life without putting in the work, okay, I'm betting that it's going to be the exception, not the rule. Next slide. Okay, so what do we need to do to get to this crossing the line? And I look at it 4 things. The first is choose to commit. I always laugh when I say this because when I say choose to commit, I feel like you're all sitting there saying, duh, of course you need to choose to commit. Okay, but even though it sounds duh, it's not, because a lot of people will say they're committed, but they haven't really committed. And the really successful people in life are the people who are going to commit and be all in. And the way I want you to think about this is what I call box it up. Next slide. There we go, box it up. Here's how I want you to think about this year starting today for the next 12 months, or starting, is it today? Or
July 1.
July 1, okay, so July 1 to 12 months from July 1. I want you to think of what you're doing as box it up. And that picture, I want you to ingrain in your head, and I want you to say it to each other over the next 12 months. Here's what this is. Imagine that your whole body of work for the next 12 months is going to go in a box. And in 12 months, you're going to seal that box up, okay? And you're going to hand that to somebody else. Imagine somebody who's taking your spot because you're going to a different position, or somebody that is going to just be one of your colleagues and work on the same account, whatever it is, you understand what I'm trying to get at. Okay? When you box that up and you hand it to them, and then in 12 months and a day, they open it up, okay? What do you want them to say? What do you want them to say in this room here? What do you want them to say?
Wow, impressive.
Right, okay. I'm sorry, your name again?
Nicole.
Nicole just rocked it out. She said, wow, that's impressive. That's exactly what you want them to say, okay? Wow, that's impressive. How am I going to top that? And think about it. If we all did that each and every year, and our goal was to top what we did the year before, think about it, not only individually, but collectively, where you go from there. I mean, it's really amazing. So box it up, okay? Your next meeting, I want you to just look at each other and say, all right, don't forget, we're boxing it up. That's the goal. Next slide. Okay, the next thing is my next duh, which is work hard, right? And everyone intuitively knows, yeah, in order to accomplish things, I need to work hard, right? But when you're thinking working hard, I just want you to think about those little extra things that you do. Katie, you were talking a little about it before, you know, in your preparation and just being polite. I wrote it down as politely persistent. Sorry, that only took me 5 times to get out of my mouth. Sorry, Katie, that wasn't you, it's me. Okay, so it's just that little extra thing to do to really make the difference between a good year and a great year, or a so-so year and a good year. Next slide. Okay, when you look at this, the first thing when I'm in New York talking to people is they think, why does he have the area code on the slide? Okay, yes, I'm going to ask you to forget that we're in New York City, forget that you know that that's the area code. What else would 212 represent?
Highway.
Okay, it could be a highway because I fool you by putting that thing around. That's a Jedi mind trick, right? So now, really what it is, okay, I don't want you to think about it as 212. So everyone, you're gonna wipe that out. From now on, when you see this, I want you to think 212, okay? 212. And next slide, let me tell you what that represents to me. I call it the extra degree, right? Because at 211 degrees, water is hot. Right? At 212, all of a sudden it goes from being super hot to boiling. And with boiling water comes steam, and with steam you could power a train. Think about how powerful that 1 extra degree is. It makes all the difference. And in our business, what does that 1 degree mean? It's that 1 phone call, extra phone call before we go home. It's that 1 thank you note that we handwrite a note. It's that 1 more networking event, which is so annoying to go to. I hate going to them too, but I know if I just go to 1 more, that could be the one that makes all the difference. So the next thing besides boxing it up that I want you guys to remember is 212. Every time you dial a number that's 212, no longer it's 212, it's 212. Now I'm telling you, here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk around and all of a sudden you're going to see the number 212. That has nothing to do with the area code. I'm living rent-free in your head, okay, right now with that. And so what's going to happen is every time you're going to see 212, you're going to see it. You're going to take a picture. You're going to send it to Tim. Tim's going to send it to me. It's going to be annoying because I'm going to get a lot of them, Tim, but it's all right because then I know I got through. Okay, so for this year, we are going to put in that extra degree in everything we do. And I don't mean just here, I mean at home, I mean with what we're eating, with our exercise, we're just gonna put in 1 more degree in everything. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm annoying with the numbers. The next number is 168. Anyone wanna guess what 168 represents? I didn't know either the first time, so that's why I used this slide. I love it. It's 168 hours in your week. We all have 168 hours. There's not 1 person in this room that has 169 or 167. We all have 168 hours. So let's think this one through. So if we all sleep 7.5 hours, well, I can't remember ever doing that, but 7.5 hours, okay, that leaves you about 115 hours left. And if you need to check me with the calculators over there, but am I right? Okay, yeah, she was over there saying, yeah. She wanted to see if I really was one of the bbest financial advisors in the country. Yeah, from a math standpoint, I am. Right? Thanks, I appreciate that. Who was it? I'm sorry, your name? Melissa. That was Melissa for all of you who aren't in the room. She was fact checking me, right? Me and Trump. So then the next thing after 115 waking hours, which is what we all have, is we have these work weeks. And I always love saying a 40-hour work week. And then I see everyone roll their eyes and smile because it's never 40 hours, but there's about 40 hours there. So if you're still doing the math, okay, that comes out to be about 1/3 or 35% of our waking life. So think about this. If we are going to spend 1/3 of our lives together, shouldn't we make every hour count so that we get those better relationships, those better results, and of course, the more opportunities? Heck yeah. So remember, as you're going through your year, box it up, 212, 168. Next slide. Okay, focus. This is really important because this is really what gets people. Because you think you're working, but you get caught up with other stuff. Okay? I am not going to point fingers at any of you, but I'm going to point fingers at me. Too much surfing the web, okay, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is that I'm justifying. My darn phone with the texts, right? I'm doing that. I can tell you, I can sometimes find any excuse, okay, not to do work. And what happens is I lose focus. So what I started to do is to shut off my email alerts when they come in. I started doing the same thing with my phone. I sometimes put my phone down. It's super hard, but I want to be successful. And I know that left to my own devices, I can't be. So I again have to Jedi mind trick myself into doing these things that are going to help me get to where I want to go. So let me give you, there are two things. First is just minimizing distractions. And again, you're not going to be surprised when I tell you, eliminating negative people from your life. Do it now. Either tell them to turn it around and get on board or get off, because life is too short to deal with that. And most of these people are dragging you down. Tougher when it's your kid. I get it. Okay. I get it. I have I know Tim's got 3. I've met his twins and love them. And they were super great to me, but I'm sure they're super terror at home. Okay. Just like my teenagers are, just like everyone's are, right? So I need you to think about focusing. In my own career, it came when I started being a financial advisor. And I was actually, because I was on commission, and if you're on commission, okay, if you don't, you eat what you kill, and I wasn't making a whole lot of money. So I was still a really good soccer player. So on Sundays, I would go to Brooklyn and I played soccer for a team called the Brooklyn Italians. And the Brooklyn Italians would pay me $200 if we lost, $300 if we won, which was a lot of money because it was also in cash. It was like babysitting money, right? And I was living at home with my parents, and that was my money to get me through while I was just starting to build my business. Until one day, I was part of the Cowan Financial Group. Howard Cowan calls me in his office. That's like getting called down to the principal's office, same thing. This is the guy who said, "Who is Tom Henske and what is he still doing in my company?" Right? So that's you're trying to reach your sales goals. I was trying to meet the minimum just so I didn't get kicked out. And he said, "You got a problem." He goes, "You're trying to get to second base with a foot on first. Decide, soccer or financial services." And that's what happened, because I had lost my focus, right, on what really mattered, which is my long-term career, because soccer ends. And when I quit playing for the Brooklyn Italians, all of a sudden, my financial services, my financial planning went through the roof. Imagine that. But I think it's a really good lesson. It was a good lesson for me, at least, on how to focus. Last one. Home stretch. And this one might be the most important. It's the bounce back, right? It's what also known as being resilient, right? Think about it like this. When we won that first national championship, people don't remember this, but the coach decided to go with the other goalie. I was a goalie, everybody, okay? He decided to go with the other goalie for the playoffs. I was devastated. I thought my world was ending. Everything I'd ever put anything into was that sport. And now all of a sudden we are getting to the prime time where my name was going to be in lights, or I thought it was going to be. And all of a sudden I was rejected, and he said, "No, we're going to go with the other guy." By the way, I found out about that through my father, who read it in the Washington Post. So I didn't even know that I wasn't going to be the goalie going forward. Story for another day. But what happened was I was determined every practice to make that coach look like an idiot. Okay, I was going to go out and play every day, and amazing. And I played the best soccer of my life, the best. What happened was we get to the Final Four, we win the semifinals, we get to the finals. I'm still on the bench. I haven't played in like 4 weeks. We get into a shootout, and all of a sudden my name got called. Okay, and for a shootout, there's penalty kicks. You guys have heard of it. If not, you can Google it sitting in your seat, figuring out what it is. Okay, and what happened was it's really skewed against the goalie, and I made these miraculous saves. And now, today, Not one person ever remembers that I wasn't the starter in that game and the 4 weeks earlier. Not one. Everyone always remembers, wow, you were the guy who made the saves. I saw you on CBS. That was awesome. But that was a perfect example. And it took me a while to get to that point where I was of the mindset to do it. But that's what bouncing back is about. It's about getting dealt a terrible hand and finding a way to get across that line to do the things that you want to do. Okay, next slide. That's it. Everything that I want you to think about for the next 12 months should be geared towards better relationships, better results, more opportunities. The way that you do that, it starts with committing, working hard, focusing, and bouncing back. And while that all sounds easy, it's super hard, but it's super worth it, because on the other side of the line is where you want to be. Okay, questions, comments, character assassinations? I know we're on a tight schedule. I can't see the chat, Michelle, but
Michelle, is there anything in the chat, or maybe we could do one question in the room? I know we got to get to awards, but it's probably, we can wrap up with one question maybe.
No, nothing in the chat.
Anybody in the room?
wow, I got off easy. Woo!
You did.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. It's been great. I appreciate it, and best of luck in your year.
A lot of lessons there, Tom. Thank you.